Hi and welcome to Check Your Thread, the podcast that will help you sew more sustainably. My name's Zoe and I'm obsessed with sewing. I've been blogging about it for over 14 years and I'm the creator and host of the popular handmade wardrobe challenge Me Made May. But like many people, I've become increasingly concerned about the climate crisis and the way that my lifestyle contributes to it. So in this podcast, I'll be nerding out about making clothes whilst exploring how to minimise the negative impact that it may have. I really hope you'll join me in this journey. So, lovely listener, how much do you really know yourself? And how does that self-knowledge relate to your enjoyment of sewing? Those are the big questions that we're tackling today with transformational coach, crafter and return guest Kim Witten. So what kind of learner are you? How closely do you follow the rules? What patterns of behaviour do you display when presented with challenges? This episode gets into all this and we learn how we can use self-awareness to make positive changes that lead to more sewing satisfaction. I'm also incredibly excited for you to hear about Kim's unique and multi-layered pledge for this year's Me Made May challenge and the many takeaways that she acquired from her first challenge. So keep your ears right here for all of that. I hope you're doing well and that life has been good to you since last week's episode. I had an unusual week last week in that I spent it home alone. My husband took our kids up north to spend the half-term holidays visiting his family, whilst I stayed back at home to work and crack on with all my tasks. I really missed them, but I got to catch up with friends and enjoy a tidy home and do things at my own pace. I also took out and reorganised my fabric stash and recorded a lot of it on the Stash Hub app, which was really fun. I actually took the time to measure each piece, so I'm going to be able to dream up projects for each length much more easily. Speaking of last week's episode, which was an introduction to pattern hacking, thanks to those of you who have left lovely messages and tagged me into your pattern hacking wins. Listener Joe left a comment that said, "Love this, started listening on the way to work and really wanted to turn around, go back home and start a new hack." Thanks for that, Joe. So great to get that feedback. So please keep sharing your hacking wins and woes with me and the other sewers out there. It is super inspiring. Something I'd like to let you know about, the awesome vibrant community that is Sew Over 50 community on Instagram have just launched a fantastic new hashtag off the back of Me Made May. It's hashtag #SewWhatYouNeedJune. Its purpose is to encourage those of us who got inspired and had lots of ideas for projects during May to actually put the most useful of those plans into action. I absolutely love this. And right now, I'm actually working on a much needed bag project for myself that I think fits neatly into this endeavour. So my usual backpack that I made a few years ago using the raspberry rucksack pattern by Sarah Kristen is now looking so faded and ropey that I'm actually kind of embarrassed to be using it at this point. Plus, my overlocker's gone to the doctor's this week, so I'm without that. So it's actually a really good time to work on a bag project that doesn't need to be finished with an overlocker. So I'm just making a simple shoulder bag using some leftovers from previous projects. The shape is loosely based on the Daphne bag by Clover and Wolf that I made like a million years ago, but I'm customising the dimensions a bit to my own specifications. Sustainability-wise, I'm claiming a win in the form of a load of alterations that I've been getting stuck into. Recently, I added some elastic into the back waist of a denim jumpsuit that was feeling like an adult baby grow. I also shortened a jumpsuit for my neighbour who's attending a wedding in a couple of weeks. And my son had a pair of school trousers that had been completely busted at the knee, then repaired, and then busted at the knee again. But seeing as he's growing out of them at this point, and I don't really think that I could pass them on to another child as trousers, I've cut them into shorts for him to wear to school, which is perfect now that the summer's really warmed up. A sustainability win and fail this week relates to borrowing our neighbour's car and taking a trip to our local tip to get rid of loads of busted stuff that's been piling up. On the good side, by going to the city tip, I was able to send off a bunch of stuff to be recycled that our local recycling collection doesn't take, like metal and light bulbs. But there are also a few things I got rid of that I suspect or know will be going to be incinerated. That includes a leaky air mattress that we had for years. I probably should have bought a repair kit, tried to locate the leak, fixed it, and then found it a new owner, considering we didn't really need it anyway. But this thing has been in my hallway for like a year, and I just had to accept that my life is currently too busy to go through those steps. So I chucked it instead, and I'm feeling really guilty about that. So that's my main fail as I see it this week. Also this week, on the 5th of June, it's World Environment Day. So this was started in 1973 by the UN, and its purpose is to raise awareness and support action to protect the environment. Each year has a specific theme, and this year's is Solutions to Plastic Pollution. There are heaps of events and activities happening globally around this issue, so go to worldenvironmentday.global for more info. And that, of course, is making me feel even more guilty about chucking out the plastic air mattress, but there we are. But I think even if we don't attend a massive event, but I think that we could all maybe spend a little bit of time this week thinking what we can do to reduce plastic. Like maybe we could find a product that we could get refilled, or buy in a glass or metal container instead of plastic. Or we could make sure that our next fabric purchase doesn't have any synthetic fibres in, so we're not contributing to microplastics getting into the waterways when we wash it. I don't know. There's loads of things we can do. Let's all pick one thing we can work on this week. Right, on to a lovely topic. Enormous thanks to new patrons Emma and Sarah for signing up to support the podcast each month. And gigantic thanks to existing patron Whitney for upping their pledge amount. You three and all the other patrons are the literal best, and I'm so grateful. If you're in a position to keep this show on the metaphorical road, please find the link to support the show in the show notes that are in your podcast app right now, or find the link plastered all over the Check Your Thread website. Okay, slight apologies for a chunkier intro this week. Some weeks I've just got more to bang on about than others, but let's finally get around to today's episode. This is actually the first of 2 episodes that have come from my conversation with Kim. So as you could probably tell from the beginning of this one, I clearly thought it was going to be a single episode focusing on self-coaching. Kim is a return guest, so we didn't need to get into all the background stuff as much, and we'd already even mentioned the topic of self-coaching in our previous conversation. But this conversation ended up being so freaking interesting and in-depth and covered way more ground than I initially predicted. So when I got round to editing it, it became clear to me that it needed to be split up so that all the points could have more of the space that they deserve. I am really excited about these episodes because these are topics that I've not really seen come up and be discussed in the sewing community. I just think that there is so much that we can learn from Kim's perspective that's going to help us all. So make sure you visit the show notes this week on checkyourthread.com. There are some great resources linked, including Kim's awesome free self-care menu for those of us who are rubbish at prioritising looking after ourselves. Look after yourself, do some self-care, and enjoy. Hi Kim, thank you so much for coming back on the podcast again. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back.
Okay, so you've previously been on the podcast talking about setting personal manifestos, which was a super fun episode. But for those who haven't heard that one or met you before, can you please remind us who you are, where you are, and what fills your days, please?
Excellent. Yes, so my name is Kim Witten. I am originally from California. I now live in Manchester, UK, so up in the north. And I am a person of many hats. I am a coach, a consultant, a researcher, a linguist, and also a crafter and a fairly beginner sewist.
Amazing. Cool. So as I said, last time you were here, we were exploring the idea of creating your own personal manifesto as an arguably more useful alternative to New Year's resolutions. In that conversation, we touched upon the idea of self-coaching ourselves through difficulties and hurdles that we might encounter while sewing. And that is what we're going to get into more today, because that felt like that deserves its own episode.
Excellent. Let's get in it.
Okay, so let's give this conversation a little bit of context. So you are a professional coach specialising in helping overwhelmed creatives, which I know is a description that has applied to yourself over the years. And as you explained to us previously, you consider yourself to be a multi-passionate creative, meaning that you engage in lots of different creative pursuits, both inside and outside of work. So have you found a balance or between kind of your creativity within work and outside of work?
It's a constant struggle, but it doesn't have to be a struggle that has stress or grief with it. It's just something that I'm constantly working on, because when you have many interests and are more of a generalist rather than a specialist, there's lots of things you could do. And so then the challenge becomes, what is the most important thing for me to do or focus on right now, or in this moment, or in this phase or period. So it's this constant checking in of understanding kind of where you are with your goals and maybe how you're feeling and what's holding your interest at the moment. And so that's part of the balance, part of the equation. For myself, and many of the people I work with, the ideas is not a problem. They don't have a shortage of ideas. It's, okay, which one? Or what do I do with all of this? Or how do I capture this? Or what do I let go of? Or how do I deal with letting go of it? It's like wanting to work on all of the patterns.
Yeah, like how I can really imagine that sense of paralysis, like, oh, could do anything.
Yeah.
So how do you stop that then turning into doing nothing?
That's a good question.
Because I've definitely been like, I could start anything right now. You know, when you're in between projects or something, you're like,
Yeah.
do the washing up.
Exactly. Yeah, sometimes we just go for the easy win, even if it's not the most enjoyable, because we know what the outcome is, what the familiar thing is. And that, yeah, maybe that's part of the answer, is pausing to check in with yourself of like, what do I want from this? I've got this 2 hours. How do I want to feel by the end of it?
Oh, that's good. How do I want to feel by the end of it? Yeah.
Do I want to feel like I've accomplished something? Do I want to feel like I've learned something? Do I want to just be content? Do I want to be rested? And then from there, it's what would give me that feeling? What comes to my mind first to kind of give me that feeling? Or how do I get there? And if you're stuck with where to start, then maybe the question is, like, if I was feeling that feeling right now, what would I do next?
Oh, I like that. So thinking about future Kim or future Zoe.
Yeah. Our future selves are wise. They can, and they can tell us where we want to go.
That's really good, because sometimes I think, especially if it's like the evening and you're tired physically and mentally, and you're trying to decide whether or not to kind of push yourself to start something. Yeah, I guess then deciding whether or not it's worth it to do that, if that's kind of a false economy in a way. But yeah, thinking about in 2 hours' time, like, what's going to be more important?
It reminds me of something. There's a worksheet that I have. It's the self-care worksheet. And the idea behind it is to come up with a menu of all of the things that you can do for self-care. And it's broken up into different pieces. And it speaks to that idea of like, when we're tired, we just can't think about what it is that we want, or it might be hard to get started. So if you have that in advance, it's almost like you just look at it and go, oh yeah, that, you know, you're just like picking a menu off. You don't have to cook, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to figure it out. Yeah, that idea of preparing for future use so that it's easier later when maybe you have less energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been thinking about, for example, using the new Stash Hub app that I've got on my phone, and also the Trello that I also use. Having some lists of projects that you know, in the future you would like to do, and then having that there, then you don't have to invent a new idea. You can then look and go, oh, well, you know, like, this is going to be quicker and easier. This one I've already got the pattern prepped. This one I've already got cut out. And you can choose from there as well, perhaps. Obviously, I'm talking in reference to sewing.
Of course.
Maybe if you're more of a multi-discipline creative, you need a bigger list with lots of different things at different stages.
But I think that works for sewing as well. Like, for anything, it's when you can look at a list, when it's visualized, you remind yourself of maybe things you've forgotten, and you can almost sense check of like, when I read that, what's the feeling? And you go, oh yeah, that sounds inspiring. That sounds creative. Or yeah, that sounds complicated. I'm not in the mood for that. And it's just...
So can you remind us, like, what inspired you to add garment sewing to your list of creative outlets?
Yes. Garment sewing. I think there's probably several reasons, but the main one that pops into my head is this idea of, you know, when you're looking for clothes and you see something, but it's just not quite right in some way. Or for me, my least favorite color is the color blue. And I see lots of amazing clothes, and they're almost always blue. And so it's like, oh, I love that idea, or I love that style, or I know what works for me. I'm also extremely short. So finding clothes that fit, it's not a far leap from gosh, I would love to be able to buy these, but I need to hem them up, to I would love to just be able to make this the way I want it. And
Right.
so there's a self-indulgent aspect to it, but also a comfort and fit and pride in having made things and getting to wear them.
Why do you feel self-indulgent?
That's a good question. I guess I mean self-indulgent in a good way of like pampering and
Oh, okay.
styling and getting to play with colors and fabrics. And I just love like a fabric shop. I'm sure we all have this feeling of just being dazzled by all of the patterns and everything before us. And it was always that way too when you go into a shop. Like you'd go into a shop like, let's say, a Gap or Uniqlo or something that has this stand of shirts, and it's all shirts, and they're all neatly folded, and it's an array of colors, and I could sit there and agonize over which one to get. And then by the time I got home, I realized that I just bought a green shirt, and it doesn't seem as special
Sure.
once it's among the array of
It's like all the possibilities there, and then when you've made the selection, the possibilities narrowed, and you're like,
another green shirt.
So when you go into a fabric shop, do you feel the same way? Does it make you feel the same way as when you go into a yarn shop?
It does, yeah. There's just something about textures and colors and possibilities at a very basic level. There's all of the sensory overload, but then there's that possibility, that future level of what could these things become. And then there's a bit of a gambling or a treasure seeking level that is always an appeal to me in anything I do.
Yeah.
It's like, where's the bargain? Maybe there's something good in the bargain bin, or maybe there's a hidden find under this stack of fabrics. Yeah. What about it? What is it for you?
Yeah, fabric shops, it's definitely the possibility. But it's interesting that so often, I go into the fabric shops and I love all the prints and the colours and this, but I invariably go towards the plain solid fabrics that's really good quality. That's what I would tend to leave with, because I can just see that being a more... God, it sounds so boring. It sounds like it's going to be a more useful garment, but honestly, like a good quality solid fabric, I think that the possibilities within that is almost greater than a pretty print. Because a pretty print, you just need to make a basic garment and the print kind of does the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Like almost if you do things like, I don't know, if you're adding something like ruffles or pleats or something clever, it often gets hidden in a print, whereas a good quality solid can really let the garment and the details and the structure and the stitching and everything really shine.
I think that's the opposite of boring. I think you've given yourself a blank canvas that challenges you to do something interesting, creative, clever with it. And the quality of the fabric also elevates the experience and the care that you might take in putting that together.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, because there's nowhere to hide when it's like if you're doing top stitching or something like that, or anything that needs to be even, like pocket placement and things like that. You can't hide with that.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I hadn't thought of it like that. So, in terms of your adopting garment sewing as your new kind of another creative discipline to your list, what kind of role did Me Made May play in kind of fueling your new passion?
It's been utterly transformational. It's allowed me to blend all of these different interests. So I am a lover of words, and I was thinking about this pledge for Me Made May, and I was breaking it down into the individual words, me, made, and may.
Yeah.
And I came up with like a 3-part kind of pledge. So the me part is all about kind of my goals for this year and garment sewing and what it means to live more sustainably, to embody my values in the clothes that I wear, in what I put upon myself, and to really kind of live by my own style, my own values, my own resourcefulness and creativity, and to actually reflect that and to feel it, to actually feel it draped around my skin, and to be wearing things that fit me well, fit my style, and are more comfortable, just allows me to kind of just more easily be the way I want to be, because there's these embodied reminders of the things I care about and the colors I like and the fabrics I like and the things that make me feel good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I've started really simply so that I can learn the skills and have the wins, a lot of patterns to start with, but now I'm getting to a place where I can play bigger with all of this. And so garment sewing has opened up this whole world of possibility.
So that's your me. What about your made?
So the word made was inspiring all these thoughts about what it means to make things. What is it when something's made? And what is the opposite of that? You know, is something like bought or consumed, or, there's a whole range of words and verbs in between those maybe two ends, if we're going to say they're extremes. And so I was thinking about made as I want to be engaging with all of the verbs that are closer to the made end of the spectrum.
Oh.
So more improving, recycling, loving, caring for things, crafting, more personalization, rather than verbs that are like consuming, buying, just picking off the shelf, whatever. So embodying that in maybe all that I do, but starting with the clothing and just thinking, it's just heightened my awareness about what it means to make something. And because I don't have a full me-made wardrobe, what I'm including in that is things that have been altered or things that have been customized or personalized to me in some way, because they're closer to that end of the spectrum of making.
Yeah.
I want to do more creating than consuming.
Right. But that can appear in so many aspects of life, can't it? From like food.
I was just thinking of food. Yeah.
Garden.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then when you're wearing made clothes and you're thinking about this, that spills over into all of everything you do. There's a heightened awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. I really feel like as well, when you start sewing clothes, you become more, this is certainly something I've discovered, you become more aware of the textiles in your life more broadly as well, I think. You could be sitting on your sofa and you realise there's a hole and you're like, wait, I have a needle and thread, this is textiles, I could do something about this. Or, the curtains on this window, they've always been a bit long.
Yeah.
Wait, I could rehem them. And I think you just become more connected with textiles more generally, and that permeates all aspects of our lives, or many more aspects of our
absolutely.
lives.
Absolutely. I just, even this past weekend, my partner has lost a bunch of weight, and we went through his closet and just trying on all the things, and we made different piles of things that are just going to be fabric for me now, because there's nothing that can be done with it. Things that I could alter, and things that he loves that I could fix, or give myself these challenges to make better. And then there was even a pile of things that he doesn't want but I could alter and make for myself. And so then that inspired this whole rabbit hole of like looking at these old jeans and looking up YouTube videos of, I could make these into bags, and I could make these into, or I could take them in and make them fit me or make them fit him better, or, just opened up again that idea of possibility.
Yeah, and if maybe you'd gone through his wardrobe maybe this time last year before you were on your garment journey, you'd have looked at those differently.
We would have just made a giant pile to donate to charity, and we would have felt good about ourselves, but there was so much more that we could have done. Now there's some things that will go to charity, but there's other things that we can take and reuse and expand the longevity of.
Yeah, and also not meaning that you have to go to the shop and start again for his wardrobe. Like, that's going to be, beyond the fact that you're going to be consuming a lot more virgin resources. Like, that's going to be really expensive and annoying.
Yeah, exactly. So we're saving a lot of money. He gets to enjoy the clothes that he's had previously, but in a different body. And and then I get to do the same and learn these new skills and challenges. And I'm sure there's going to be some disasters and all of that. But yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, but I love that. That's really exciting. There's lots of resources out there for alterations.
Yeah. I'm going to go back through some of your old podcasts as well and listen to what your guests have to say, because this is an incredible resource right here. And so that's been been in my ear, on this journey for months and months and months.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't have to tackle it all at once, do you? You can just kind of like go for low-hanging fruit initially and work your way up to some of the more complex
challenge. There's
challenges.
the part of me that just wants to do it all, everything everywhere all at once.
You can just imagine you're just carpeted your floor in garments. Like, I'm doing it all. Where's Kim? She's under here somewhere.
Where'd she go? Yeah, so I do need to find some way to manage and triage all of this, because the other problem that will happen is I will, if it's too much or too overwhelming, I'll just nope out of the whole thing and be like, I'm going to go do this hobby for a while. So there is you kind of got to meter it.
Yeah, ride the enthusiasm, but don't hit the overwhelm.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. And so May, what does May bring to
May
mind?
is many things. So it's obviously the month of May, which is a really good month for transitions, spring, change, all of that, learning, growth. It's also a month is a nice time boxed space to give yourself a challenge like this. But then I was thinking about the word May itself is about permission and letting yourself, I love that reaction, yeah, it's, I had that when I realized this as well. It's like, oh yeah, I may do this.
Yeah. And possibility, May.
Yeah, what could happen here? So giving ourselves permission to mess up, to hold things lightly, to let things kind of go where they go, and not be so hard on ourselves.
A month, I think, it's not like a week where you've got no room to kind of almost breathe. It's like, I've just got to do it. But like, if you did like a quarter or 6 months, that's like, I'll get to that.
And that's what I've experienced going through this, and using your excellent workbook has been really critical and helpful for that, because I've checked in with it, probably to varying amounts throughout the month so far. Yeah, it's that perfect amount of time where if it was just a week, you would almost have to time box it and really protect it and put everything else aside. But a month allows those weeks to be compared. And, there's 1 week where I've had more time to really think about it. And then it allows you to notice some patterns as well over your wearing habits over the course of more than 1 week, which I think has been really useful.
Yeah. Because also, if there's like you're going away for a weekend or something like that, if that was part of your week, it's like, oh, I don't even know if it's worth doing because I'm out of my normal thing. But yeah, when it's longer, you can allow for, or there's more room for life to happen as well, and for that to then impact the challenge as well. So we are, as we're speaking now, we are coming towards the end of the challenge. So have you made any discoveries or revelations about your wardrobe, or how you're feeling about it, or anything more broadly?
So many. Where do I start? I should have prepared a list. Oh, let's scope that question down a little bit. My pledge was about improving my trust in handmade items, striving towards more making making verbs in all that I do, embody that making mindset, physically living by my values, and to do at least one activity each day of May as part of an embodied sustainability habit. Yeah.
Oh, nice. There's so many layers to your pledge.
I really gave it a lot of thought because I'm an overthinker. So one of the big discoveries is this is totally possible. Making your own clothes and making them simply and having confidence in wearing them. So I made this jumpsuit, and I just love the pattern so much. And I made it through a sewing course at Ministry of Craft. Shout out to Allison there. And, it's just been an amazing experience to have that learning environment. But then I was able to go off and make more variations. past me would have never gone out. We had a sunny weekend last weekend. Would have never gone out in a short shorts jumpsuit, like thin material, and never had the confidence, especially in something that I'd made. And I did, and it was great. And I was like, I can totally do this. And by doing that, I could see some things that I would fix, probably in the next
Right.
1 of 10 jumpsuits that I'll make. So yeah, that's another, I guess, learning is if you can take a pattern, or like you were saying with a fabric, you like this high quality, basic fabric, but then finding lots of different ways to use the pattern or to use the fabric more creatively, you can do so many different things. So I've just really enjoyed the puzzle of maximizing both the fabric when you're cutting out patterns, but yeah, it's just been a lot of play and learning. Yeah, and stress too. It's not been without its foibles.
Where's the stress been?
Impatience with myself, lack of knowing about things going wrong, and
But you know that they have to go wrong, don't you? So you can do the learning.
but I don't like it.
I just want to know.
Yeah. I was thinking about this, like, what are your favorite feelings, right? And I'd be curious to hear yours. Like, mine is feeling content or satisfied, accomplished, feeling clever about something.
Yeah.
And when things go wrong, like, all of that just goes... Especially when I don't understand it, what's happened here. And then you have to backtrack, or, it's the most unclever feeling. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, that's really interesting. Kind of leads to what I was going to ask you next. So what kind of learner are you? Because I was thinking about, I wonder how that impacts the challenges that you come up against. I'm sure you've thought about this a lot because you think about everything a lot. But yeah, that's kind of feeding to what you were just saying.
Yeah. Before I answer this, can I flip this on you and ask you what type of learner you are?
I think this is going to be so predictable because I am an upholder, and I definitely feel that the way that I learn reflects that. So, for example, with sewing, I will generally follow a sewing pattern or a new if there's a new to me technique or style or something, do some research, not overly research. I'm not a questioner.
And by upholder and questioner, you're referring to Gretchen Rubin's 4 tendencies.
Gretchen Rubin's 4 tendencies
framework.
Yeah.
So it's like upholder, questioner, rebel, and obliger. Yeah. So people tend to fall into one of these 4 categories.
So I'll follow a pattern until I get to the point where I've got the hang of things, or I've done it so much, like I've done so many shirts that I now know how I prefer to do a collar, so if I come to a pattern and they have a slightly different set of instructions, I'll go my own way. But I had to do a number of them as I was told to learn the way that I like best, so by kind of following people who are more experienced than me and being kind of really conscious of it and learning, then I now have that confidence to go ahead with what I feel works better, But when I've taught sewing classes, I've been very quick to kind of let people know that there's more than one way to do pretty much anything in sewing. I don't like to approach a sewing class by saying, this is how you do, because I don't think that's helpful, because what if then they find another pattern further down the line, like, oh, it's different. It's like there's loads of different ways, and eventually through experience you'll figure out what way feels best to you,
And so what I'm hearing from all of this is that for you, understanding learning the established ways of doing things and having that embodied experience of doing it, walking it through, allows you then the creativity and freedom to adapt things to your own preferences, and the confidence to do that in a way that is learned and based in experience.
Yeah, but I don't get stuck on how some people almost get paralyzed by they have to research everything before they even pick anything up. And I'm not like that. That I think that way leads to madness.
Yeah. I'm like that
or not
when
ever
I'm
doing anything.
procrastinating. So if I'm procrastinating as a form of, through learning things, then I will research far beyond I need to, far beyond what I need to be
So
doing.
what's that delaying by doing that?
And the actual doing. Yeah.
Right.
And that's usually for things that I'm finding difficult or unclear, scary or tedious. So that's the dust model: difficult, unclear, scary or tedious. Usually when we're procrastinating, I forget the person who, is it Graham Melcott, I think that was his model. That's usually a reason why. It's something we can ask ourselves when we're putting off anything, or if we're struggling for anything. Is like, is it difficult? Is it unclear? Is it scary? Or is it tedious? Because usually one or more of those things is preventing us from forward movement. But if, on the flip side, if there is something that I want to be doing and I'm excited and I'm learning, my learning style is like, what is the base amount of information I need to know to get the quick win? I want the quick win, and I don't mind cutting corners. I don't mind doing it my way. I just need to understand the shape of things and what the pitfalls are, and then I'm going to just dive in, and I'm just going to do it, and I want it to be... I do like the visuals, and I like the courses because you get this outcome. I love experts who can just show you and walk you through something. And that's what YouTube can be great for that. But then I get that impatience of like, where's the good part? I don't need to see. It's the same with recipes, following recipes. I'm not the biggest rules follower, but I need to understand which rules that I need to pay attention to. I need to understand why. So I'm the questioner in the 4 tendencies framework. Like, tell me why we need to do it this way. Why is this rule here? Or why, what does this button do? Or, why do I have to press the seams open? If I don't understand why, I'm not going to do it, because it just seems like it's getting in the way of time and my outcome.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Or if I understand why why you need to iron things, press things, or seams, I might get really creative and puzzle out a way to do all of these steps in the right order, but like faster, so that I can batch them. And then that makes me feel really clever, right? Because I've saved a load of time.
So it's finding the little fun challenges within the overall challenge as well to get those little hits of
dopamine,
of enjoyment.
Yeah.
We were talking about this before, weren't we? I think via email, and I was saying that it's kind of more through necessity, but also there's something pleasing in that I've, on my sewing table, I haven't got space for my overlocker and my sewing machine. I have to have one or the other, so I'll often kind of try and do as much straight stitching as I can, and then do as much overlocking as I can to make it worthwhile, doing that kind of flip over and replugging everything in and stuff.
I love that.
Do you?
Yeah, there's something so beautiful and physical about that constraint that I think creativity needs constraints. So yeah, you having that constraint around space allows you or forces you to plan differently and think through things differently and solve that mini puzzle, that mini challenge.
Have you had the enjoyment of like chain piecing things together, where you kind of like just do loads and loads and loads of seams and you just kind of line them up, you don't even... And then you snip them apart in between?
I've never thought of that.
It's so fun.
Yeah, now I want to go do that.
Yeah, or like overlocking loads and loads of things and literally you're just feeding it all through and then you snip them apart at the end. What I like as well is that it's all one for a while, so then if you need to kind of like take it over to do a different table or stuff, you're not just dropping things and losing things. It's all like...
Yeah, it's all tied together. Like I immediately thought of like making sausages. Like you're just making all the sausages, you're feeding them to the machine and then you're just snipping them apart. There's got to be something so gratifying about that. And I really like the idea of like, okay, we're doing all of this right now, and now all of this is done. It's the same with cutting fabric. I love cutting fabric. There's just something so gratifying about it, and puzzling out the pieces. It's just, there's a lot of bits of that are very satisfying. And so I might cut out a lot of pieces of fabric, a lot of different projects, and then move on to the assembly step later.
Cool.
Yeah.
So in that sense, so you found like a lot of reoccurring patterns in terms of your enjoyment and where you can find pleasure within these challenges. Have you found any patterns or recurrences in the struggles or frustrations that you personally come up against within sewing?
Yeah.
Yes. So like, do you think it's likely that we could all find patterns and like repeated frustrations if we kind of knew what to look for?
I think because we bring ourselves everywhere we go, those struggles are always going to surface until we resolve them. And so
With lots of therapy.
Exactly. But we're going to bring ourselves to whatever arena we plop ourselves down in.
So true.
And so and the trick to this, I think, is to laugh at ourselves and be like, oh yeah, this is the same problem I have at work. This is the same frustration I have with this person, or I'm just now having it with myself in the sewing machine.
Yeah, because it's not like you're going to suddenly just get into knitting in a different way or something.
Yeah, and be transformed when I'm a knitter.
I'm this person. I'm so adventurous.
I'm so zen and nothing bothers me. It's like,
Still like, what's the base I need to know about this?
Yeah, exactly. And so, it's both surprising and unsurprising that these challenges come up, and we can have a laugh, but also, when we're in the moment and it's happening, it's not funny.
Yeah. Thanks so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and are left feeling inspired. For more info about the podcast, including show notes for this and every episode, head to checkyourthread.com. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have any comments, questions or ideas for future episodes, please get in touch by emailing zoe@checkyourthread.com or find me on Instagram @checkyourthread. Massive thanks to Patrick Potter for production support, to Sylvia Seller for the awesome logo design, and to Simon at Palm Skin Productions for the music. This ad-free podcast would not be possible without listener support, so if you feel you are able, please consider signing up to the Check Your Thread Patreon. For the equivalent of buying me a coffee each month, you'll be making it possible to continue producing regular episodes. Links can be found in the show notes and on the website checkyourthread.com. I hope you'll listen again next week. Until then, take care. Bye!